As urban gardeners, we're often limited with the amount of space we have to grow food. We might be growing in raised beds or a small garden plot. And if we want to grow more food, we have to add another bed or another plot, right? Well, maybe not. What if with a little foresight and planning, you could turn this same area into this? This raised bed is the exact same size as the raised bed that you just saw. The only difference is this raised bed has twice the biomass that the old one did. The previous raised bed was where I was growing elephant garlic. Well, in this bed, I'm also growing garlic in addition to a lot of fava beans. I'm doing this using a strategy called interplanting. So what's interplanting? It's combining plant varieties in ways that avoid competition for light, space, and nutrients. Why interplanting? Interplanting gives you an advantage as a gardener. It allows you to stack time and space. Stacking time simply means growing several varieties all within the same time period. For example, let's say you wanted to plant tomatoes and radishes. Tomatoes are going to take 90 days to mature. You have 90 days to wait until you can harvest fruit. Say you also wanted to plant radishes. Radishes might take 30 days to harvest. If you planted the radishes first, 30 days later, planted tomatoes, you'd have tomatoes 90 days after that. 120 days after you started, you would have gotten both. If we try to stack time, we can plant the tomatoes and the radishes in the same space at the same time. At time 0, both get planted. 30 days later, we pull out the radishes, which leave room for the tomatoes to mature. And at 90 days, we have ripe tomatoes and we got some free radishes along the way. We've saved 30 days off of our total. We've stacked time using interplanting. Stacking space is similar. If you think about different plant varieties, each plant variety has its own unique growing characteristics. Some plants have big underground roots close to surface. Some plants have roots that grow deep down under the surface. Some plants have bulbous roots. Some plants have fibrous roots. If you think about the above ground portion of the plant, some plants grow straight up and vertical, like palm trees. Some plants grow up and grow to be very bushy, like grasses. If we want to stack space, what we're going to try and do is combine varieties that don't have the same exact growing characteristic. So we might plant something like an onion, which has a bulbous root under the ground with a thin bit of green mass above ground, with something like lettuce, which has fibrous roots underground and more biomass above ground. The onion isn't going to shade out the lettuce, and the roots from the lettuce aren't going to outcompete the onion bulb growing under the ground. Using this type of thinking, we can stack our plant varieties within a space. Another reason to do interplanting is if you want to accomplish different goals at the same time. Say you want to grow a compost crop while also growing a crop that you can eat. Instead of having 2 spaces to do that, you can try and combine those goals into 1 space. Using strategic planning, you can hopefully accomplish more than one goal, giving you the best of both worlds, allowing you to have your cake and eat it too. Another reason that you might want to do interplanting is to create symbiotic relationships or mutually beneficial relationships where the 2 plants that you have growing in the same space feed off of each other literatively and figuratively. Maybe it's something like companion planting where one plant encourages beneficial insects to come in that helps keep the pests off another plant. And maybe it's some sort of symbiotic effect like one plant provides nutrients for another plant. That's what I have going on here. Here's a great example of how I'm using interplanting in my raised beds. I have fava beans right here that I came in and interplanted amongst shallots and garlic. And as you can see, the fava beans have taken over and the shallots and the garlic, which is somewhere back in here, is doing really well. They're nice and green, they're bulbing up. Why I wanted to do this and why I created this interplanting relationship was because fava beans are legumes. And if you've watched my previous videos, you know a legume is just a plant that has a beneficial relationship with a bacteria that can fix nitrogen from our air and put it into a form that plants can use in the form of NH3 or ammonia. So these fava beans have partnered with bacteria, and those bacteria are fixing nitrogen into the roots of the fava beans, which helps feed the fava beans and the plants around it. Asterisk. We'll get to that part. When creating an interplanting relationship, you don't have to limit yourself to just planting 2 plants together. You could put 3, 4, 5 plants together, all within the same space. The things that you really need to think about when you're setting up your interplanting is what are the attributes and needs of each plant? What does each plant bring to the table? And what is each plant going to need to take off of the table? Some plants like fava beans, as you can see, they grow really tall. They're mostly vertical and they fix nitrogen. What are fava beans going to need? They're going to need a lot of light, they're going to need a lot of water, and they're going to need nitrogen, but luckily they're providing their own nitrogen. If you think about the other plants which I have in this relationship, the garlic, what are the attributes and needs of the garlic? Garlic grows mostly underground, that's where a big bulb is. The fibrous roots of the fava beans aren't going to really hurt the garlic. The fava beans are producing their own nitrogen, so they're not going to outcompete the nitrogen in terms of looking for nutrients. And the above ground portion of the garlic, it's really thin and kind of spindly and cylindrical. It's not taking up as much space. It's not competing above ground really for space with the fava beans. If we were going to plant fava beans and tomatoes, 2 big bushy plants, then we might have some complications. So when you're thinking about interplanting, think about the needs and attributes of each plant, and then also think about the timing. When are you going to be harvesting each one? Are they going to come out at the same time, or are they going to be staggered, where both get planted at the same time, but one comes out at one point, the other one stays in the ground for a little longer, and then you harvest it a bit down the line? If we look at the sequencing of how this interplanting came to be, here's how it all started. I first put garlic and shallots into these beds. I let them get established and I actually let them come above ground so I could see where they were. Then I went in and I took inoculated fava bean seeds and put it in between each of the garlic and shallot plants that were poking their heads above surface on a grid. Now it's come time where the fava beans are flowering. I don't want these to fruit because I want to keep as much nitrogen in the soil and in the plants as possible. So I'm going to harvest out the fava beans now, leaving the garlic and the shallots in the ground. When I go to harvest the fava beans, I'm going to cut them off at surface. The roots of the favas will stay in ground. Those roots will hopefully dissolve, leaving a lot of nitrogen left over in the soil, which the garlic and the shallots can use to feed off of while they go and mature. When you're doing interplanting, having a timing sequence is really important. You want to have a plan before you start, and then just simply watch those plants to hit the markers that you need them to hit and harvest each one accordingly. When you're doing interplanting, it often helps to have a short-term crop with a long-term crop that is going to really help you with your timing. That way, when the short-term crop matures, you get that out, it's out of the way, leaving space and area for the long-term crop to mature, and also area for you to get in there and work with the long-term crop. The reality of nitrogen fixation. When you have a legume that's fixing nitrogen in the soil, where is that nitrogen going? It's going from the air into the root of the plant via rhizobia in the form a plant can use. The plant then uses that nitrogen in the form of ammonia to develop biomass. That biomass is going all throughout the plant. So you have nitrogen in the leaves, you have nitrogen in the stems, you have nitrogen in the flowers, in the roots, in the nodules themselves, and eventually you will have a lot of nitrogen in what the flowers turn into. The fruit of the plant, in this case, fava beans. If you want to keep as much nitrogen in the plant or in the soil as possible, then what you need to do is harvest this plant at soil level before it sets fruit, usually around when 80% of your plants are flowering. At that time, simply go around the bed, cut all the plants off at ground level, and a lot of the nitrogen that's left in the roots and the nodules will stay in the soil, break down in the soil, and be available for other plants. But what about when the plant's growing? Is there any sharing of nitrogen then? The answer really is maybe, kind of. We're not totally sure. Now, there have been some studies using radioactive isotopes that have shown that plants that fix nitrogen can actually send some of that nitrogen through the soil to other plants. Some of that nitrogen is migrating out of plant A and ending up in plant B. There's an exchange taking place there. There's a sharing of nitrogen taking place there. It doesn't appear to be a huge amount of nitrogen, but there is some nitrogen exchange taking place. So this is good news for those of us involved with an ecological gardening, because we want to be able to plant a nitrogen fixer and know that it can not only help itself, but also help the plants around it. Science is showing that it can do that, just maybe not in as big of a way as we would like to think or hope. Nonetheless, there is an exchange taking place there. And if we really want to keep as much nitrogen in the soil as possible, we need to use our bodies to help with that nitrogen exchange by harvesting at the right time, leaving the roots in the ground, and then composting the tops so that nitrogen can turn into a stable form in the form of compost. Interplanting isn't always a free lunch. What are some of the negatives of interplanting? Number one is it's definitely more complicated. It's more complex. You have to have your timing down. If you don't get your timing right, it's going to make harvesting and management of the two types of varieties that you plant a little bit complicated and tough. So timing is critical when it comes to interplanting. Another potential negative is not choosing varieties correctly. You're going to want to look at those needs and attributes and the timing that I talked about before to really match up your plant varieties correctly. You don't want to put two heavy feeders in the same interplanting scheme. For example, potatoes and corn. If you look about how they stack in space, that might work because corn grows up, potatoes grow down, but they both use a ton of nitrogen out of the soil to produce all of that biomass, and they could end up trying to outcompete each other. So if you don't choose your varieties correctly, interplanting may not work for you. Another potential negative is you could end up with less yield. Let's say a typical bed of garlic, just competing against other garlic with all the space that it needs, produces 50 pounds over 100 square feet. I'm just making that up. Don't hold me to those numbers. And let's say we add fava beans to the mix. And now we only get 40 pounds of garlic in the same space, but we're able to harvest 40 pounds of fava bean biomass to use in our compost. We have a net gain of 30 total pounds of biomass, but we have less total garlic. So your yield per variety may be compromised, but at the end of the day, you may get more total biomass. So think about all these potential negatives when you consider interplanting in your garden. Interplanting is really a great strategy that anybody can try. If you have a garden with a limited amount of space and you're just looking to grow more, if you're looking to boost your soil, if you just want better, healthier plants, consider trying interplanting. In fact, I'll challenge you to try interplanting in your garden this summer. Find two species that you think can work together, plan them out, plant them, and see how the results work for you. Today, it was all about interplanting. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you do a lot of interplanting, please let me know. Leave a comment down below and stay tuned for another video next week. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.